Hello everyone, welcome to Gelvin Valley. We're on Farming Sim 15. This is a wonderful map created by Wild Wes. Map author's real name I think is Wes, so that must be where he got the Wes. Anyway, we probably shouldn't be going uphill right here because this is pulling like a booger. But it is what we're doing. I'm trying to remember. It's been a few days since I've recorded a Gelvin Valley episode. I've been over on my farms in Thüringer and Herlefeld. Other series that I have going. Thüringer, of course, is on Farm Sim 15. Herlefeld, Farm Sim 11. Yes, I do still play even an old game like Farm Sim 11. So we're just doing the fall tillage work here and trying to get the fields prepared for fall and winter and ready for planting. I was just checking here to make sure rock digging is off, I think. Yeah, I wanted that off this particular time. That's a best feature I think that I built into that particular mod is namely the ability to turn it off. And since the last time that we had a recording here on Gelvin Valley, our family did something again. I know I've talked about it before. Thought I would relate it again. That has to do with something this is now our third time of doing it. Our church there has an annual auction for a hospital that we support that's in Haiti, and just to raise money for it so they can hire doctors, nurses, and what have you for the Haitian people. And we've now, hey now, what is this? Oh, you know what? There's a little teeny spot. I don't think I've ever noticed that before. Where, yeah, let me see here. What do I gotta do to take that out? Turn on field detection. Boom. We are taking that out right now. Boom shakalaka. On. Okay, we'll turn that off before we can forget about it. Anyway, there's a hospital that our church supports, and there's this auction, and I think the auction is somewhere held in the Midwest part of the nation. I live in Oregon, so we're out here on the left coast, and so where we've tried to participate a little bit is through silent auction. And you know, in the old days with silent auction, well, not the old days, they still do it in some charitable auctions. You would see goods that you wanted to bid on, and you could see them kind of in a wide open area. They would allow a certain time for people to enter their bids, and it's all open. You can see what other people have bid, although you generally don't know who. You know, you're identified by number or something. So this is similar. It's just held online, and our family for 2 years, this is now our third, has sold a Chinese food meal at this. And you know, Chinese cooking, I think I've had episodes in here before. I just love Chinese food, always have, ever since I was a kid. I mean, what's not to like, right? And I'm sure I'm only familiar with, you know, the Americanized version, America, of Chinese food or whatever, but okay. I mean, it's whatever I know of as Chinese food. And, oh, hey, this field here I've been looking forward to. We are going to go to town, and all of these weed patches, by the time we're done, are gonna be gone. So here we go. We'll take care of these right here. Boom, gone. I gotta be careful. The bushes on the side will disappear too. Yeah. I maybe should take those bushes out. I don't mean to delete bushes, so I maybe should remove those from the list of what gets destroyed when there's that random fence post kind of just sitting there. I should maybe remove it from the list of what gets destroyed by the cultivator plow. But a number of years ago, I think it was just before the time period of COVID, I had it was a favorite Chinese food restaurant we had in town here where I live, and it was just one of those places. I think it was more authentic than some of the others. It had a real Chinese chef in there. Not that the others don't, of course. But I think he attempted to have genuine Chinese cuisine there. He didn't cook with some of the ingredients that some of these places use. I'm thinking specifically of MSG. And I don't know, it was my favorite place. It was my father's favorite place. And it was one of those places you could just go to and get a good meal, and you could feel good afterward. I don't know how it is for other people, but that's so much of the time when I go out to eat at a restaurant, I just come away with a gut ache, and it just doesn't even feel very good. It's just, we all know it isn't the same as home cooking or whatever, but there's a handful of restaurants out there, and maybe it's just my own weak stomach. There's a handful of restaurants, where you can go to. Swinging away here, where that doesn't happen, and his establishment was one of those places. Well, anyway, he at the soup. You know what? I think the ground is uneven in here, so it's having a hard time dragging this big fat cultivator over there. I think this is the last time I'm gonna try to put something this gargantuan on and do my fields. There, I think I got it. Get over there. Come on, baby, pull the hill. This is steeper than all get out. And I'm having a dickens of a time keeping the side of the field. Ended up tearing more out than I'd like to. So anyway, he passed away, and which was disappointing. So his family, who ran the restaurant with him, evidently, they tried, I think, for a while, but they ultimately decided to close it down. And the building that they did it in and everything is just totally gone now. So the restaurant, such as it was, which was kind of a local establishment, the man had won, I don't know how many awards for, the best Chinese food eatery in town. That's the kind of guy that he was, but anyway, his family opted to close it down after his passing, and it's totally gone. So I started asking questions. Well, maybe I can make Chinese food at home. I don't think up to that point ever really given it a thought, and I'm not really a cook. I'm an eater, not a cooker, Oh, come on, get up on the hill. Dang it, gotta back up again. So, like I say, I think this was just before COVID. And then when COVID hit, of course, all of us were spending more time at home. And, many pastimes were taken up. It's a whole discussion in its own right. It's always funny. It wasn't funny at the time as to what flew off of the shelves at the supermarket the quickest back then. But a lot of people were taking up cooking at home, and anyway, I just started downloading recipes off the internet for Chinese food, trying to make it authentic, and some of it just regular Americanized Chinese takeout or what have you. And we started practicing at home, and learned in the process that I needed new dishes, this thing called a wok. I didn't have one of those. Now I have two, and they're nothing fancy. I think the real one is over gas source of heat maybe, and is on a, am I getting all that? Yeah, I think I'm getting most of it, maybe, kind of, sort of. It's over gas heat on a stove, and of course I'd love to have one of those, but I don't have it. I mean, this is just the cheap, it sits on the countertop and it's powered by electric just on the bottom of it, but it's all I have in it. Or I got two of them, so, and that's just, I mean, that's one of many things we've had to get, as part of trying to, do a little Chinese food cooking cuisining. So from that beginning, there was, we'd invite people over for supper periodically, and we'd attempt to feed them Chinese food. So we've done it time and time again, and we don't do it even that much anymore. We just know how to do it. And if I had my druthers, we'd have it a whole lot more often. My kids kind of protested back when we were doing it, and I mean, they were getting sick of it. Well, maybe the boys mainly. And I don't know, it's some part of that to me is still amusing. There was one point they begged for, I mean, get this, they begged for hot dogs and mac and cheese. And it's like, you guys, here I worked this hard to try to get you a decent meal that, your friends at school would probably be envious of, home cooked and everything. And they preferred the, they preferred these tube steaks, I guess we would call them. But anyway, from that beginning, doing that, we did that for several years, and tried recipe after recipe, just to get some practice. And then one year we heard that there was this auction, wasn't well advertised in our church at the time. It still isn't really. But I don't know, we just got this idea. It's like, well, why not give it a try? So we decided as a family we would try selling a Chinese food meal, and to see, who would buy it or whatever. And the first year we held it in our home, and each time we've done it, we've tried to set it up, I think, for 12 people to come. And I mean, I was just floored, and of course the whole point of this is, to make money. It isn't a statement of worth or anything like that, as to what, some of these people are willing to pay. There's actually several people in our area who put on meals. I know one of my brothers, I think he does a steak dinner. He is just a whiz, at cooking meat, particularly beefsteak. And so I know he and his wife put one on, and some others had one too. But there are people that would pay, spend thousands on this meal, because they were bidding against each other and whatnot, just trying to, roll up money for the folks in Haiti. So it's always kind of fun to watch the auction go, and see this one here for this particular year. I'm trying to remember. I think it was knocking on the door of $9,000. That somebody paid for a Chinese food meal. So when someone does that, you want to try to give them, or at least in my mind, you want to try to give them as good of an experience as you can, when they're laying down that much bread for the meal. And this, we're not highfalutin, we know how to do it, but that's about all. So it's still fairly rudimentary, no matter how many times we've tried it. But I gotta say that probably the biggest surprise to me, in doing cooking Chinese food, was how well it turned out. And like I say, I'm not a cook, and that's probably why it seems so surprising to me. That it turns out, and it's good. even the stuff, that I would consider flops. For example, I know my first attempt at making some orange chicken totally failed. In that time period, I was cooking the oil on the stove, which isn't really the best idea. It's better to have a skillet or another deep fat fryer, cooker, or whatever to handle some of that, because you're able to keep the temperature better and that kind of thing and get it to, the point that it needs to be. But anyways, in those days I did it on the stove, and what ended up happening is my chicken absorbed a lot of the oil, and then it absorbed it into the meat and the battering that I had on it, instead of just leaving the chicken kind of intact. But I gotta say, it still tasted good. It was just, had a little extra oil in there. So, we just were our stomachs were a little better lubricated maybe that particular day. Maybe not the healthiest thing, but like I say, it's still, even though I would call it a flop, it still turned out. So, but at least we don't have that really happen anymore. We've practiced enough. Oh, got a rental contract ending. I don't even remember how many. And once we get this done, I think we're down to 32. I'll have to check my. Check my map in a moment. Oh, it is so nice to see these weeds go. They've been in there for the longest time and always mess with my immersion when I come through here and cultivate, and they don't disappear. And anyway, it's nice to see them gone. So all 3 years, that we've done this, we've used pretty much the same menu, and part of it, in setting up a menu, at least for the way that we do it, is space utilization. That's kind of hey, are you going to come up? Huh. Yoo-hoo. Okay, there it is. I tried to raise it. One of the things we've learned with Chinese food cooking is it's very intensive in the preparation process. Maybe all foods are. I mean, what do I know? There's a lot of dishes, a lot of steps sometimes in a particular dish, a lot of ingredients that go in, and they got to go in a certain order, and you cook it in a certain place. And the cooking process comes dead last. And if we have 3, 4, 5 dishes to do, we'll do all the prep for them first, and then we'll work on cooking them all at the same time, to have it all ready and warm and hot for supper and all that. So that means that you can do a couple wok dishes. There are certain things you would do in a wok, certain things you do on the stove, certain things maybe over in the deep fat fryer, certain things also in the oven. Some of these are oven baked, and I don't know if that's how they really do it in China or whatever, but that's how some of our recipes have called for it. So if you selected 5 dishes and they all required the oven, well, you'd kind of be toast, because generally, when we go someplace to hold this meal, we only have one oven. So there's only, 1 or 2 dishes we can do down in the oven. So a lot of the dishes that we have are selected not only to get a variety of dishes or whatever, but also to utilize the limited space that we have. So I'm just looking at the menu here. We've always kind of started with hot and sour soup, and we fry some shrimp, and I got homemade cocktail sauce made for them. They can get some sweet and sour. I've never tried to make sweet and sour sauce. I don't think it'd be too hard, but we've only ever made just a cocktail sauce. And as another appetizer, we make for them some pork ginger pot stickers with dipping sauce, primarily just soy sauce, I guess they would put in there, although they can use a cocktail or sweet and sour sauce with it too. And then on the main courses, if you will, we have sesame chicken, sweet and sour pork, so that gets kind of two sweet dishes, also two different kinds of meat, if you will. Then we have kung pao spaghetti, and we've had this is by far one of my favorite dishes. It has a little bit of heat, little bit of chicken, and is a noodle dish. Gives them a little bit of heat. And this time we've had in the past. I just love the name. It's called Moo Goo Gai Pan, which kind of has a little bit of chicken and some snow peas in it. This year we swapped it out for diced almond chicken to put that in there. Then we also have some Uyghur spicy beef skewers, or Uyghur. I think that's a Muslim ethnicity, maybe in China. There's a particular way they have of making beef. And see, this one here, again, space utilization. This one is done on the grill, so we're able to keep it out of the kitchen, except for preparing it and marinating it and everything. And then, of course, traditional white rice, to go along with it. And incidentally, what I was saying before is the biggest surprise to me is how well things have turned out. Last year when we did this, everything worked okay except for the white rice. Of all the dumbest things you would think, where the easiest dish was the hardest one, and I think it's because we just didn't properly allocate space for the cooking of it or what have you. So this year we did a little better on that, and it turned out just fine. We also, along with dinner, there's a dinner roll. It's called a pineapple bun, and it's kind of a sweet roll, and it has nothing to do with pineapple itself. I think that they're called pineapple buns because they kind of look a little like a pineapple, and it all has to do with how there's some egg yolk applied to the dough kind of in the process. You have a bun, and of course you let them raise and all that, and then you give them, it looks funny or kind of strange, you give them kind of a hat that just kind of flops over the top of them, and it gives them kind of a rounded process, and on there or a rounded shape, if you will, and on there you swab on some just good old egg yolk, and I think in the baking process then it kind of it curves around and ends up cracking a little bit so that it kind of looks like a pineapple. I think it's kind of a looks. There's no pineapple juice, no nothing. Some people were asking about that, and it was kind of funny to have to tell them, there really is no pineapple. It isn't sweet in that way. There is sugar in it, but anyway, that's a roll that we provide them. And then for dessert, it's kind of a tapioca type dish called mango sago. So it's kind of a pudding type dish that apparently is authentic Chinese. It has fresh mango on top, and like I say, it's kind of a tapioca consistency in there. And then also to throw in, and this here, I don't think it's a Chinese tradition at all. I think I remember reading somewhere that fortune cookies are actually an American thing. I think we only ever see them in Chinese food restaurants, but apparently that isn't traditional Chinese cooking, if you will. And I gotta tell you, those things are a royal booger to make. They're it's really a labor of love, if a person makes them things, because it's very manual intensive, if you will. Yeah, I could go into a whole lot of detail on that. Let me see, how much time do I have? Oh, maybe I can cover it. Yeah, those, you do them 3 at a time in the oven at 375 degrees. You whip up your batter. I mean, it's all the usual suspects. It's amazing to me how many different things you can make, with something like eggs, flour, water, and sugar, just in different combinations, depending on what you do with it. It's amazing how many different things you can make. So anyways, you put them on a 3-inch circle on the pan, and you the way we did it is we took a cup that had an approximate 3-inch diameter and drew a circle, 3 of them, on some parchment paper. Then we turned the parchment paper over, so of course the ink of the pen or whatever wouldn't interfere, with the batter. And then that way we knew exactly the shape. You got to start with a circle, and it needs to, for uniformity or whatever, they all got to be the same. And so with your fingers, you are, pushing the batter around and all that jazz, trying to get it, to be all that. I should turn this off. That approximate shape, and you put it in, and it takes 9 minutes, pretty much a bang on the dot, to cook them. And then immediately upon pulling them out of the oven, this is where I say it's truly a labor of love. It takes a lot of time, but the reason you can only do about 3 of them at a time is because when you pull them out, they have to be pliable enough that you can bend them. So they're just circles. So you take your little fortune, your slip of paper, and in our case, I just put Bible verses in them, and then you fold it in half. So now you have a semicircle, and then you got to pick the silly thing up, and it's, like I say, 375 degrees. Sorry, I don't know what that is in Celsius, but it's blistering hot. And so it's like the whole part, you're like, ow, oh, ouch, dang it. And then you got to bend it the other direction over the lip of a cup, to kind of complete how the cookie is going to look. So and so you do a few of those, and then of course you got to get it ready for the next one. And we did, let me see, I think 33 of them. So you can do the math on how many batches that is as to how long it took. But like I say, you just end up taking hide off your fingers. I got these lily white accountant hands that aren't used to that kind of thing. And so anyway, but we got that done. And some of this, each year we've done it a little bit differently. This year, or the first year, we did it in our home. Let me pull that up. The second year, we did all the prep and cooking it was probably 20 miles away. Someone had a shop that we could borrow. This time here, and what was frustrating about the app, by the way, is having, because some of the stuff we use to do this is specialty in nature, like the wok. There's certain utensils and things we use that are specific to this kind of cooking. So anytime we cook it someplace else, it feels like you gotta haul your whole kitchen away somewhere. So this year we wanted to try to avoid that as much as possible. And man alive, I gotta tell you, it still felt like we were hauling almost the entire kitchen to it. But I think it went a little better. We did all of the prep for all these recipes in our home, and just a tiny bit of cooking on one of them, and then we did all the cooking on site. Once we got there, we used little bags, for when we had veggies for a particular one. We used big grocery sacks, one for each dish, so we put all the ingredients in it, to help us know we had everything put together and didn't leave anything home. And some good friends of ours, like I say, the first year was just our family. Some good friends of ours have agreed to help with this, and she is a whiz at decorating. So they had the location we went to this year all decorated up, just looking awesome. And so that part was all taken care of for us. And so we got over there. It was a Saturday evening when we put all this on, just a little over a week ago, actually. And yeah, we had it out. We had, our family. My daughter from the Midwest was visiting, and our little granddaughter, and she was a trooper. And then several others, from our friends' family as well to help wait the tables and that kind of thing. We even had someone who was good at photography taking pictures of the event, and it's a lot of fun. I thought it was ultimately, although I have to admit, each time we've done this, there's something in the back of my mind that says, oh boy, this is the last year you're ever going to do this. Because it's stressful too, and I don't know, kind of like I explained at the get-go, I am not a cook. I've learned a few things here, but I'm an accountant, and a lot of my mindset, this is a key difference between my wife and I. It's a skill she has that I don't, and it's probably just from her years of doing it for the family, growing up with it or whatever, where it's the old multitasking thing where she's able to cook multiple things at the same time. And for me, I tend to be more linear. I cook this and I do it till it's done, and I work on this, and it's just hard for me to try to do multiple things at once. And when you do this kind of cooking, you really have to. But honestly, for this particular evening, I didn't even do that much cooking. I did I can't say almost all. I did a ton of the preparing, but then once we got there, I did more of the serving part out with our so-called customers. So I'm glad we did it. I'm sure we'll do it again. Always glad also when it's done. No denying that. But I think it went off really well, and so we'll just have to see who the unlucky person to purchase it next year is. So anyway, hope everybody is doing wonderful. That's my little tale for today's episode. Hope everybody's doing well. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time again on good old Gelvin Valley. Bye-bye.